When you look, for example, the entire book of John, some people believe John 3:5 refers to baptism, but when you look at the entire book of John, you have John giving the gospel message over and over again, and never is baptism an aspect of what he's talking about. For example, in John chapter 6, you have this whole discussion of coming unto Jesus Christ, being raised up the last day. And interestingly enough, in each of those passages, Jesus Christ claims the ability to save his people. He does not claim to hope to save his people. He does not say, I hope to be able to save them if they'll just be baptized, or if they'll do that, or if they'll do this. He says that he will raise up those that are given to him by the Father on the last day. When I address the issue of those who believe in baptismal regeneration, instead of arguing Acts 22:16, Acts 2:38, and Titus 3:5-7, and John 3:5, and all the classical passages that come up, I think it's extremely important to take a step back, because in reality this whole issue is sometimes built on a straw man. And what I'm trying to say is that we need to take a step back and ask ourselves the question, what did Paul mean in Romans 3:11 when he said there is no man who seeks after God? What does the Bible say in Ephesians 2 when it talks about the fact that we are dead in our trespasses and sins? The question we have to ask of those who believe in baptismal regeneration is, are you really saying that a spiritually dead person is capable of undertaking a spiritual act that brings about their spiritual life? How does that work? I approach baptismal regeneration from the discussion of man's deadness in sin, laying the first foundation that must be there, and that is that we as sinners are dead in sin, that we do not seek after God, and that spiritual life must be given to us before we can do anything else that is pleasing to God. In Romans chapter 8, and I think this is one of the key passages that I would direct you to, and the reason I do this is because most of these folks that believe this have heard all the discussions about John 3:5 and all the rest of this stuff many times, and sometimes you don't feel like you're getting anywhere. Sometimes if you approach from another angle, another perspective, another element of God's truth, you sometimes can make some headway. But in Romans chapter 8, verses 5-9, we have the statement, for those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. You have two kinds of human beings. Those who are fleshly, who set their mind on the things of the flesh, and those who are spiritual, who set their minds on the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind, or the fleshly mind, is enmity against God. It's at war against God, and is not subject to the law of God, nor indeed can it be. So then those who are in the flesh, what? Cannot please God. Now, if a person is still in the flesh, if a person has not been born again, if a person has not been regenerated, they cannot do anything that is pleasing to God. Well, would not even desiring to be baptized be pleasing to God? Would that not require a spiritual mind to desire to do this spiritual thing? Of course. And so we see very plainly in Paul's teaching the necessity of God first moving and bringing us to spiritual life before we can do anything. Baptism or anything else, God must move first in our lives. And that's what the Scriptures most definitely teach. And that's why Paul can say in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 that we glory in who? In ourselves for having been good enough to have gotten ourselves baptized so we could be saved? No. We glory because it is by Him that we are in Christ Jesus. I think that is the most useful direction to approach those passages.